their status, they can do this, but with the option of working as well, but it's a very high fees. They have to pay very high fees. So Mexico knows that these people, that migrants are coming through, especially migrants without documents, but this is not a crime. There's also a number of agreements, especially in the border regions, for migrants to transit. For example, a lot of Guatemalans come to Chiapas to work, but and also the Mexican state knows about the migrant shelters and the humanitarian help they give.
Yeah, I have a two-part question. You mentioned that the problems are invisibility and disinformation slash xenophobia. And I was wondering about two films that came up recently. One is Sin Nombre, and the other one is a documentary with the Invisible. So my question is whether this new visibility, how do you feel about it? Do you feel that the representations are all right? And what repercussions have you seen? En español, mi pregunta
Gracias.
es que hablabas de los problemas de la invisibilidad y la xenofobia y la mala información. Entonces te pregunto si hubo algún cambio a raíz de las películas como Sin Nombre y Los Invisibles, el documental de Gael, si eso produjo algún cambio positivo o algún cambio. Y la segunda parte de la pregunta es si sientes que la situación está debidamente representada en ficción o en el documental.
La verdad es que yo no he notado mucho cambio. O sea, trabajamos mucho para que la gente sepa lo que está sucediendo. De repente yo lo veo desde un punto muy personal, es que las personas que tienen dinero, que no les falta nada, se encierran en su burbuja y no ven de lo que está sucediendo alrededor, ¿no? Sabiendo que existen muchas cosas negativas en el tránsito de los migrantes, ¿no? Difícilmente quieren darse cuenta de esto que está sucediendo. Y las personas que más asisten a ver estos documentales, por ejemplo, son personas activistas, ¿no? Gente que quiere cambiarlo. Yo he participado en muchas de estas presentaciones y siempre son como las mismas organizaciones, la misma gente, ¿no? La proyección de estos documentales para mí sí ha sido la realidad, a veces escondida un poco de lo que es, ¿no? Porque hay cosas muy fuertes que pasan los migrantes. Entonces, a veces lo llevan a un nivel, pues, para poderlo aceptar, para que la gente lo vea y no se asuste, ¿no? Yo he tenido experiencias muy fuertes con los migrantes y dices, ¿cómo voy a contar esto? ¿No? Van a pensar que yo estoy mintiendo. Entonces, a veces hay este tipo de cosas, especialmente donde pasa el tren, algunas creo que sí son la realidad, la mayor parte, pero las cosas muy, muy fuertes no los dicen, ¿no?
Well, the truth is that I have not seen a lot of change. Even though we've been working very hard to make it, to let people know what is happening and what happens to migrants as they cross through Mexico, I think that, in my personal opinion, I think that a lot of people with money and who have no needs are often put themselves or keep themselves in a sort of bubble and don't see what exists outside of this bubble. So we've been trying to tell people about all of what happens to people as they transit through Mexico, but they don't want to see it. And about your second question, I think a lot of times people who go see these documents, these sort of documents, are already activists and people that want to change things. When I've been present in a lot of these presentations of the films, and we see that it's the same organizations, the same sort of people coming to see these films. So yeah, it's I think the films do just do portray reality, but only parts of the reality of what happens, because a lot of the times the experiences that migrants have are pretty traumatic. So they're somewhat they show experiences that people can accept, things that aren't without being too frightened about the content. I've had a lot of experiences with migrants that are really traumatic, and I always wonder, how am I going to tell people? If I tell people about what I just heard, they won't believe me, especially along the train routes. The sort of experiences migrants have are so extreme that they do. So these films do show a reality of what happens to migrants, but they don't say the most traumatic or extreme cases that happen.
Mine's actually just sort of a comment, and I also wanted to thank Nancy for coming, and to both of you guys today for the event. It's very, very wonderful. So, just for those of you that aren't aware of the Go Big Read program, I just wanted to put a plug in for that. That's the book that's selected by the Chancellor's Office this year, Olivia K's Journey.
Quería hacer un comentario y decirle gracias a Nancy por venir aquí y a ustedes dos por este gran evento. Más quería decirle a todos que si no saben sobre el programa de Go Big Read, el libro que ha sido seleccionado por el rector es Enrique's Journey, y el que trata muchos de estos temas.
Yeah,
Es
along with
la autora
that,
aquí.
Enrique's Journey and having to
Sí.
be the big read book is
Enrique's
one of those
Journey
ways to try to get
viaje de
not just
Enrique
teaching to
y
the
el
choir,
que
not
sea
just sharing with people who are already on board, and
el que ese
it's
libro
great to
sea
present
parte
to
del
Latin
programa
study
aquí,
departments and peace
es
studies and people who understand a lot of these issues, but we also do
presentar
try
esta
to, we
información
presented at the
a
library
nuevas
yesterday, and tried to get
personas, a
a
nuevas
broader group,
audiencias.
and we've had 7 presentations in high schools around
Hemos
Madison in the
estado
last couple
tratando de
days, so
llegar a nuevos
trying to get the word out
públicos
to
y no
people who
nada
know
más a
about
las
it,
mismas personas,
and
a
are
las
committed
mismas
those issues
institutos.
and already kind of
Entonces
activists in
es
those
muy,
issues, but also
estamos tratando
some
de
of the
llegar a
people,
gente
all
que ya
people in the
está
United States should know about.
comprometida con estos temas, pero a todos.
I had a question about how the migrants that are coming are like identified as being migrants, and what are some of the tactics that they use like before they enter into Mexico to kind of combat, I guess, like to kind of almost blend in so they won't really stand out and be discriminated against.
In Mexico.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yo tenía una pregunta acerca de cómo los migrantes que entran son identificados como migrantes y cuáles son algunas de las tácticas que ellos usan para que no se den cuenta las otras personas que los quieren, como los criminales que están hablando, o las
Las
personas.
bandas de delincuencia. Yo después de 5 años de trabajar en COMI, en la organización donde yo trabajo, si yo ando por la calle difícilmente puedo identificar a una persona si es migrante o no. Pero de repente los migrantes tienen como características, o ellos tienen la forma de vestirse, ¿no? Y por lo general siempre van a estar en grupos. Entonces, las bandas de delincuencia organizada que captan a los migrantes siempre lo van a querer hacer afuera de los albergues, ¿no? Porque saben que ahí van a llegar. Entonces, muchos de ellos, de repente, es algo que no podemos hacer, pero a veces lo hago, es de decirle a los migrantes: quítate tu vestido de migrante, para que cuando tú salgas no seas presa fácil de que alguien te robe o te extorsione. La mayor forma de que se dan cuenta que son migrantes es por la forma de hablar, nada más, ¿no? Porque Oaxaca y México es un país que tiene muchas diferentes regiones y diferentes. La costa hablan distinto, en la Mixteca hablan distinto, y los rostros también son distintos, ¿no? Lo físico, pues. Entonces, de repente yo pienso en los policías de migración, en que están buscando sus ojos para ver si tienen miedo, para poderlos agarrar, ¿no? Pero yo siempre les pido, es algo que como organización no podemos hacer, pero siempre les digo: quítate tu vestido de migrante, ¿no? Quítate tu gorra, quítate tu mochila, sé una persona como de la ciudad, ¿no? O si quieres como turista, pero quítate eso para que no seas presa fácil, ¿no? Pero si una banda de delincuencia organizada está captando migrantes, va a estar a los afueras de los albergues, por lo general.
Well, I've been working for, now that I've been working for Comey for 5 years, it's very difficult for me to identify when I'm walking on the street who's a migrant and who isn't. Sometimes, though, migrants do have some characteristics, especially their way, the way in which they dress, so that you can identify them. Also, oftentimes migrants will hang out in big groups, and organized criminal gangs know also that who are looking for migrants know that they hang out at migrant shelters, so they'll wait in the nearby. They'll wait right outside of the shelters because they know that there are many migrants staying there. Something that I do, which as an organization we can't really do, but I always tell migrants, take off your migrant costume, as it were, because so that you won't be seen as an easy target, by groups to steal from you or to extort you. But most often it's just the way in which they talk. In Oaxaca, in Mexico, we have in the state of Oaxaca, we have many different regions. People on the coast speak differently than the people in the Mixteca. They also have their faces look different, so physically they're different. So I think a lot of times, migration police, they're just looking for people and looking in their eyes and seeing who looks the most scared. So what I tell migrants is just to take off their migrant costume, to take off their hat, to take off their backpack, and to go out and look like someone from the city or maybe even a tourist, so to not be easy prey to the migrants that are looking for them outside of the shelters.
I think they talk about that in Enrique's journey too, where he talks about
Creo
learning
que
some
hablamos sobre esto,
Mexican
hablan sobre
slang and
esto
being really careful
en
about kind of Honduran
el
slang
viaje
that he was using
Enrique,
and kind
en
of talking
usar
amongst each
modismos
other
mexicanos
to
y no
figure out the
usar
kind of
modismos
keys the authorities might
salvadoreños,
have
hablan
to
de aprender un
identify them
poquito
as
de eso
somebody from Central
para
America.
que sea menos difícil ser identificado como alguien de Centroamérica.
Thank you for the very interesting presentation. You mentioned 4 vulnerable groups of migrants: children, women, elderly, and indigenous people. I was wondering what exactly makes the indigenous so vulnerable, because I'm assuming these are adults. So what exactly is it? And my Spanish is pretty bad.
Muchas gracias por la gran presentación. Mencionó usted de los cuatro grupos que son más vulnerables en su tránsito por México: mujeres, niños, adultos, indígenas. ¿Qué exactamente hace que estas personas indígenas, que estoy asumiendo que son adultos, qué exactamente los hace vulnerables?
Principalmente porque la mayor parte de estas personas indígenas no saben leer ni escribir, y muchas de las veces son presa más fácil para los engaños, ¿no? He tenido experiencias con migrantes que, por ejemplo, le contratan a un coyote y muchas de las veces no saben tampoco hablar español, ¿eh? Entonces, cuando ellos salen, venden su terreno, por ejemplo, y para ellos más fácil es contratar un coyote. Y como no saben, muchas de las veces estos coyotes en Chiapas, por ejemplo, es un lugar de mucha selva y muchos ríos. Entonces, como hay muchas montañas, tardas mucho tiempo para pasar de un lugar, de un pueblo a otro, ¿no? Hasta 12 horas, por ejemplo. Entonces, cuando llegan a otro lugar, les dicen los coyotes a los migrantes, y esto pasa con los indígenas, mira, del otro lado del río ya es Estados Unidos. Fue seguro, fue fácil, invertiste bien tu dinero, entonces pásate y del otro lado ya llegaste. Cuando los migrantes pasan del otro lado del río, porque les dicen que ese es el río Bravo, siguen estando en Chiapas, ¿no? Entonces, son como más presa fácil de este tipo de delincuentes, ¿no? Entonces, como les digo, muchas veces no saben leer, no saben escribir, porque han pasado por nuestro albergue, y a veces es difícil hasta comunicarse con ellos, porque no saben hablar español también. Entonces, Siempre he pensado que su situación es tan crítica que los empuja a salir, aún sabiendo, yo estoy aquí, no sé hablar inglés, entonces me siento como mal porque a veces quisiera comunicarme y no puedo, ¿no? Entonces, tampoco puedo pensar en qué sienten estos migrantes que no hablan español, pero tampoco van a hablar inglés, ¿no? Entonces es más complicado para ellos, ¿no?
Mostly they're vulnerable because they don't know how to read or write. So they're easy prey to be tricked or fooled. A lot of times they won't even speak Spanish. They don't even know how to speak Spanish. So they leave their communities and they sell off their land. And for them, the easiest thing to do is to hire a coyote or a human smuggler. So coyotes will trick them. For example, when they reach the state of Chiapas, which is a state which has a lot of jungle and rivers and a lot of mountains, and because of this, it takes a lot of time to go from one community to another, from one town to another. Sometimes upwards of 12 hours to go from one city to another. So migrants will get to a river, and the coyote will tell them, look, on the other side of this river is the U.S. I told you it'd be safe. I told you we would get you here easily. It was a good investment of your money to pay me. But once migrants cross to the other side, they are still in the state of Chiapas. So they're easy prey of this type of criminals. As I said, they often don't know how to read or write, and when they reach our shelter, it's often difficult to talk to them, to communicate, because of their lack of Spanish. So I always think that they're in a very critical situation. That they must have been in a very critical situation to be pushed to move out, to leave their communities. I've been here for a few days, and I don't speak any English, and it's sometimes hard for me to communicate when I want to say something, but I can't. So I can't imagine what it feels like to go through a place where you don't speak Spanish, and they certainly don't speak English. So what that must be like for those migrants.
We have time for one more? Yeah.
You mentioned a law that was passed earlier this year that made it so that the authorities couldn't enter the migrant shelters. What kind of problems did you have with that before? Like, if it's legal for people to be passing through, what reasons would the authorities have for going into the shelters? Like, what kind of things happen? And I just make it in Spanish.
Bueno, mencionó la ley que se aprobó a principios de año, y que ahora no deja que la ley, que las autoridades pueden entrar a los albergues de migrantes. Pero ¿qué tipo de problemas tenían antes? Porque sí es legal que estas personas pasen por México, entonces ¿qué tipo de autoridades tendrían o qué razones tendrían las autoridades de entrar a los albergues antes de que se pase esta ley,
Bueno, anteriormente los defensores de los derechos de los migrantes eran criminalizados, ¿no? Entonces, antes de la aprobación de esta ley, la ayuda humanitaria estaba criminalizada. Existen más de 72 amenazas y delitos contra los defensores, ¿no? Entonces, antes de esta aprobación de la ley, brindar ayuda humanitaria estaba totalmente criminalizado. En internet ustedes pueden buscar el caso de Conchita, una defensora que daba de comer, una persona que daba de comer a los migrantes. Ella está en la cárcel ahora, ¿no? Y también por parte de las autoridades. El año pasado a mí me acusaron de ser traficante de personas agravado por transportar menores de edad, ¿no? Porque dimos asistencia a una señora que venía con sus 3 hijos. Entonces, cuando le hacen su declaración no bien justificada, no sé la palabra legal que utilizan cuando, no lo puedo recordar, cuando hacen, le piden la declaración a los niños, no la pueden hacer si no hay un familiar presente, ¿no? Entonces, tomaron esta declaración, nada más ellos, porque quisieron. Pero, por ejemplo, el delegado de Migración en Oaxaca les toma la declaración, no estando presente un familiar, se la hace válida, y dentro de esta declaración los niños dicen, pues es que pasamos por su casa o por el albergue de Nancy, y me dio de comer, y me dio esto, y todo. El delegado, conociéndome, sabe qué trabajo, y él me saluda de beso y todo. Una semana, 15 días después, yo me entero que tengo una demanda en la Procuraduría General de la República, porque es un delito federal el tráfico. Entonces yo estaba, ¿pero por qué hace eso? Entonces es la forma en que criminalizan o tratan de intimidarnos para nuestro trabajo, ¿no? Ahora, con el cambio de la ley, si tienes una organización establecida y que estás brindando ayuda humanitaria y no lucrando con los migrantes, no vamos a tener problemas. Entonces, eso nos favorece bastante.
Well, before the work that migrant rights defenders did was criminalized. Before this new law was approved, humanitarian help was criminalized. There's over 72 threats and crimes committed against these sort of defenders, and before this law was approved, giving humanitarian help was criminalized. If you look on the internet, you'll find the case of Conchita, a woman who gave food to migrants. She is now in jail. Also, a lot of things happen, or a lot of these violence or crimes against defenders are perpetrated by the authorities. Last year, I was accused of human trafficking human smuggling, and made worse because it was a case with children involved. We gave assistance to a woman who came through the shelter, and she was traveling with her 3 children, and the immigration officials illegally questioned the children. They had to question a child. A family member has to be present, but they took their statements without having someone present from their family. And so when they were questioning the children said that, well, we went through Nancy's house, and she gave us food, and she gave us this, she gave us that. And the immigration official knew me. He knew what I did, and he always said hi to me, was very pleasant, and everything. But 2 weeks later, I found out that there was a criminal charge against me filed by the Attorney General's office, because this is a federal crime to smuggle children, human smuggling, especially that of children, is a federal crime. And so this charge was against me, and this is an attempt to intimidate and make us no longer want to do our job. But since the new law has been passed, now established organizations can give humanitarian help without running into problems with the authorities. And I just want to ask that, add that your question was, that why they would have issues with officials coming into the shelter before. A lot of the migrants are coming through Mexico without permits, without any visas or official status in Mexico. So the shelters would be raided by immigration officials looking for migrants as well.
Okay, so I thought you said that it was legal be a migrant in transit without papers?
Pensé que habías dicho que era legal ser migrante sin documentos en tránsito por México.
No, bueno, yo le digo a los migrantes no son ilegales, son personas que no tienen documentos y no es delito en México, ¿no? Es como, no sé cómo explicar la diferencia, ¿no? Pero no son ilegales y no son personas que han cometido un delito, son migrantes que pasan sin documentos o que no tienen el dinero para pagar el permiso, ¿sí? Son personas que para sacar una visa para entrar es muy costoso. Sí.
Yeah, well, I always tell migrants that they're not illegal. They're simply don't have documents. This is not a crime. I don't really know how to explain the difference, but they're not illegal. They're not criminals. They're simply migrants without documents because they don't have the money to pay for the permit to enter into Mexico. They don't have enough funds to have a visa to enter Mexico because it's a very costly process.
So the authorities would enter because they could, well, they could take money from them, correct? Because being there, they need to pay to be there.
Entonces las autoridades entrarían a los shelters, a los las autoridades entrarían para tomar el dinero para ellos, para forzarlos que paguen por los documentos.
And also, we have the same sort of gray zone in some of our laws, where you're allowed to give some services to people who are here without documents, but you're,
No.
even if they're not supposed to be here.
Está
You know,
confusa
it's-
Está confundida
There was
porque no
a, there was
son
a law that
ilegales.
almost went through,
pero
I think,
entonces
2006,
está
that passed in the
confundida con
House
eso.
but not in the Senate.
Sí, pero no
It
son
was going to
ilegales, no es un
criminalize
delito,
any
¿no?
sort of